Are you a smelly lad? Do you smell?
Like regularly. I mean, like
A regular amount.
a regular amount and intensity. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm a particularly noteworthily smelly guy.
Do you wear
deodorant?
aftershave?
No.
Or cologne?
I sometimes wear cologne.
Okay.
If I remember.
What is the difference between cologne and aftershave?
I have no idea. I think aftershave is after you shave, and the other one's just whenever you want. Tell me I'm wrong.
You could be right. That might be true.
Yes.
I don't know. I bought one bottle of cologne in my life, and I've not finished it yet.
Yeah, it takes
I used to wear it occasionally on dates when I was dating, when I was in the dating game.
Did it help?
But then I would, I don't know, I didn't, although it is the sort of thing I would do, which is check a statistical correlation of like second dates versus wearing cologne. That's not something I ever did. I think I probably didn't go on quite enough dates for a good enough sample size for that. But yeah.
I always thought it's a bit tricky with cologne because I always thought you're kind of, if you don't actually smell like that and they find that attractive, isn't that just false advertising?
Yeah. You want a girl who
likes your
fancies your natural mask.
Yeah, your pheromones.
Yeah.
And all that jazz.
I'm definitely, for some reason, sort of insecure about smelling bad, though I don't have much evidence that I do. It's just like, I think a lot people smell bad and probably it's just like low-key gross for everyone, but no one really mentions it.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell someone that they smell all the time. And that's why I'm not friends with you. Because you stink.
I remember being at school and someone went, "You stink," to me. But like, just in a way that it was unclear whether they were just being like, "You suck," or whether they were like, "Sam, your stench is unbearable."
Like accurately pinning you down.
Like whether they would, giving me
childish,
almost being helpful.
Yeah, childish innocence.
It stuck in my head for years. I was like, do I stink? Have I told you about when I was on the train next to a woman? So you know when you're on the train and the person next to you is texting, you read their texts.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. So I didn't know if other people did that, but obviously if someone texting you on the texting next to you on the train,
I love reading other people's
what
phones.
they're texting, and then they turn their phone away from you because they can tell that you're doing it really obviously, and you're like, "Fuck! I thought I was being subtle." Now they're hiding their phone. Anyway, so I was reading some woman's text, and she was sitting in between me and another man, and she started texting on the tube, "The man next to me really smells."
Oh, but you didn't know which one it was.
I didn't know if it was me or it was the other man.
Oh, no.
So I then got up and started like checking out the other guy. And I was like, is this a guy that looks stinking? I didn't actually go, I didn't feel like I could go up close enough to him to like have a stink.
Yeah.
But I was like, he's not like, he wasn't like a guy I was like, no chance does this guy stink.
Yeah.
But also, it wasn't like, oh yeah, clearly that guy.
He wasn't like a homeless guy.
He was a similar guy to me, probably.
Oh,
in some
God,
ways.
that's the worst.
And so I was freaking out. And I was like, do I smell, I showered today? Maybe I've worn this jumper a couple of days in a row.
Yeah. And maybe even if it was him, she might think it was you if you both present
maybe she didn't even know.
Equally stinkers.
That's an interesting question. If you have... Yeah, can you smell directionally? If I just hold up some strawberries and your eyes are closed, or maybe something smellier than strawberries, to your right or your left, can you tell me whether the smell's coming from your left or your right, like hearing?
I don't know. I mean, cats and dogs definitely can, because they do that, like... And their nose sort of like leads them.
But then I think that might just be, I smell here, there's a smell. I smell here, there's no smell. I smell here, there's no smell. So they just like if you can move your nose around, because obviously if you can go, sniff left, sniff right, sniff left, then you can figure it out.
You mean
but if you're just held in place?
Oh, I don't think so. You just get the smell, right? It's just like
the smell arrives.
Yeah, it just arrives, and you're like, I'm aware.
I don't know.
I don't think if I got a smell, I'd be like, that's to the right of me.
I feel quite sad that I don't know this fact about myself.
Yeah, maybe that's a missing sense.
Disconnected from my own senses. That I don't even understand. Wait, does Red Bull smell? Yeah, but not like I can't smell it from here. Sorry, guys. I can't do a live experiment using items within reach of me right now.
But please let us know if you can smell directionally.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
If you're listening to this, which I'm sure you are, we were laughing at how few YouTube views we had.
Yeah, YouTube is brutal.
We shouldn't mention that.
No.
But it's just because we've literally not told anyone at all. That's the podcast.
That's the way I like it.
And I think when we do tell them, they'll be like, "Wow, what a like amazing library of content."
Yeah, I want hundreds.
That we can go through. Netflix, right? When Netflix started, they weren't like, "Hey, look at us, we're Netflix. We have one episode of one show." People would be like, "This is rubbish, Netflix."
Yeah, we're Netflix.
Tell us when you have got
every show.
15 to 20 shows.
More than that. Every show.
Every show.
Ring us when Blockbuster is broke.
Yeah.
And you've got everything from Blockbuster.
Did you used to like going to Blockbuster
I used to
back in the day?
love Blockbuster.
I really liked it as well.
I like that you got the little images as well of all the movies, and I'd always be like, there'd be movies that I'd be like, what
the images?
is that
Do you mean the
movie about?
box?
Yeah, images.
You mean you like looking at the DVD covers?
The cover art, yeah.
Okay. That's just a really weird sentence.
Well, that's the way I said it.
You liked all the images.
Yeah, but you understood what I meant.
No.
Oh.
No, I didn't. I was like, this is an interpretation.
That's the way I see it.
Okay. I like the images.
I do like the images on the front of the DVDs.
Okay.
I found that because then I was sort of like, what does the story mean? Just based on the picture.
But surely that's just like the thumbnail on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I like those too.
Okay.
I like a range of images.
How would you... What section would you go to first when you were in Blockbuster?
I always found horror the most exciting because they had the most exciting pictures.
Oh, I think I was too spooked for horror. Because horror... Most of the horrors were like 15s and 18s. And I think my peak Blockbuster period was like... I think by the time I was like 15, I was already sort of watching stuff on my computer. But... And my parents were quite strict about like watching films that were not appropriate.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't really allowed to watch 15s until I was probably 14.
Did they have their? I was going to say, did they have their own level of what was appropriate, or did they really go by the recommended 12A, 15?
I mean, I think they like really didn't want me to watch like violence that would scar me.
Right.
But I think like if it was sort of sweary or whatever, they didn't really care about that.
Yeah.
I don't think they particularly cared about sort of sex and nudity and stuff, although they probably wouldn't have wanted me to watch hardcore pornography.
You could watch Basic Instinct if they took all the violent scenes out of it.
Yeah, and the one frame where you can see Sharon Stone's labia. I think it's impossible. I don't think you even can see it.
No, I don't know. Not with the fuzzy pause button you'd have.
Not
back
with
then.
the fuzzy pause.
Fuzzy pause.
Fuzzy pause like
God,
a cat.
I remember I used to find I watched Romeo Must Die as a kid.
What is that?
It's a kung fu movie.
Okay.
American movie. American Hong Kong collaboration, I think, with Jet Li. Anyway.
Is that Bruce Lee's son?
Oh, no.
I don't know who Jet Li is. I don't know anything about kung fu.
Man. Bruce Lee is Lee spelled different. Bruce Lee is L-E-E.
Is it Stuart Lee's son? Oh no, Bruce Lee. Okay, Bruce Lee is spelled the same as Stuart Lee, isn't it?
Yeah. This is spelled L-I.
L-I.
Jet Li. And there's possibly like a less than a second flash of a lady's breast.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to pausing it on the VHS to get the breast.
Yeah.
It was very exciting for me at the time.
I had a load of illegally downloaded movies on my like hard drive that I'd got off like LimeWire.
Yeah.
And I know when you say you've got illegal movies on a hard drive, it maybe brings to mind things which I'm not intending. Illegally downloaded normal feature films. When I was of a certain age, I remember having, for several of the films, memorized the time codes.
Did you
So
did you make a hyperlink to them? So that you could get to them really quickly.
Because you wouldn't want anyone to know. You wouldn't want someone on your computer to click and immediately be directed to that. So it was like a way of having sort of porn on your computer, but only if you remembered that it was there. I was very like sort of deeply ashamed of any like desire to see any nudity.
Yeah.
So I remember kids in my school would like talk about like looking at porn, and I'd be like, well, I could never in my life, I wouldn't even want to even know even why you'd want to do that. This is an awful idea. But what I did do is I'd go on a randomimagegenerator.com or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just a website that would just like pull a random image from somewhere on the internet. And I told you about this before. And I'd just press, and it would be like a picture of a man, picture of a car, picture of a logo. I just hit refresh again and again and again and again. And every like 25 pictures or something would be like a tit or like a screenshot of something from porn. And I'd go, oh my goodness. Oh wow, I had never thought anything like this would happen. What an embarrassing situation we seem to be in. Oh no, dreadful stuff. Okay, click. And then
you wouldn't masturbate to it. You would just be looking for it actively. Passively, actively.
I don't know, and also I don't know which is the more shameful. What would be more shameful? But yeah, the idea of sort of like searching for like porn and clicking on it and looking at it, that was like too grotesque. But if I could find a way to stumble across some.
If for 9 hours on
I
random
thought I was
image
rather
generator.
clever.
What little moral loophole for you?
Yeah. And I reckon, and if there's any kids listening, I'd recommend it.
Now the kids now are all looking at high-speed internet porn.
Yeah, asking ChatGPT to generate a picture of their
classmates,
their class,
their teacher,
their classmates. Yeah,
their hot teacher.
I don't think I remember there was like people would talk about hot teachers in my school. But when I was like, I didn't really, until I got to like a teenager, I didn't really like have the idea of like fancying adults. Like I would have crushes on people in my class.
Yeah.
But I remember people being like, she's hot about a teacher. And I'd be like, she's a grown-up. What are you talking about? She's huge and old.
Like 4 times my size.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a giant kink. I'm not one of these people who want to like pay someone to make a video where they're crushing me with my foot.
Amazonian beast of a woman.
She gave me a B in geography. I don't fancy her. What movies do you remember being shown in school?
Movies.
Remember, like last day of term, they'd show you movies.
Oh, what? They wheel it out on the wheelie
big
thing.
Fucking old TV.
In primary school, they used to show us the Care Bears a lot.
Wow.
Do you remember the Care Bears? And
I just remember being shown that horrible rabbit one. What's it called?
Watership Down.
Watership Down.
Oh my god, did they show that to you?
Yeah, when I was 8.
That film's awful for children.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a good film, but it's terrifying. Like really violent and horrible.
It's also bizarrely a U.
Yeah, I remember that. I think they might have changed it now, but
I think they'd have to. They're graphically disembowel characters.
Yeah.
There's the weird old deranged evil rabbit who's got like a bleeding eye or something.
Yeah.
It's really, really creepy. And it's got that really old, spooky 70s audio.
Yeah.
Look at the fields. They're all covered in blood. All the kids are like, what?
I think it is important to traumatize children with movies. And
I can tell you what I got traumatized by.
What?
My brother used to get lots of anime manga films.
Right.
And my mum used to think they
Your
were just...
backstory is really shaping up.
Yes.
To explain why you're...
But
Hentai Master 100.
That's not me. That's someone else.
That's not me. We just subscribe to the same subreddits.
Quite me. That's my avatar. No, but my mum used to think they were just cartoons, so they couldn't be... they couldn't be harmful, and they were just full of like rape and people getting disemboweled. And
Wow. Yeah.
I remember Akira terrified me. I watched that because they shoot a man to pieces, and it's with a little boy watching, going no, and it's like in the opening thing, and God, they blast the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, is he okay? And it's
but do you
graphic?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you do still care about
and then he's
cartoon
half
characters.
alive, and then he's like, and they're like, he's still moving. He gets mullered again.
Yeah.
Ugh, rough.
Was that a sort of exciting formative moment, or was that sort of like horrible and scary?
No, the first time I saw that was just horrible and scary. And then as I got older, well, I don't know, but then my brother just kept showing me stuff as well. And then I think I got desensitized to it.
Yeah.
But then I'm highly sensitive to injections and like real life surgery and stuff. That makes me faint. But I can watch violence.
I'm very desensitized to movies now. And so I actually hold in quite sort of... I'm in quite like moments from my childhood that were sort of mildly traumatic. Watching them are quite special to me, like watching The Others with my mum on holiday, which is that 12A horror movie with who is it? It's not Kate Blanchett.
It's someone,
Naomi,
not Naomi Watts,
Scott or something, whatever her name is. Baby girl, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman. I think.
Is it Nicole Kidman? Possibly, yeah. And that just like absolutely terrifying me. And certain movies, I remember Pan's Labyrinth just like shaking me to my very core.
Pan's Labyrinth got you. I guess it's a bit scary.
Pan's Labyrinth is terrifying. Pan's Labyrinth, they like smash a guy's face in with a bottle. It's really violent. And then they got the scene with the guy with the eyes, the hand eyes chasing the little girl.
No, terrifying. I must have been desensitized by that point.
But
I enjoyed Pan's Labyrinth.
But I've also got to say, my mum was very scared of me watching stuff and it like freaking me out and traumatizing me. But the stuff that I did watch that was slightly inappropriate is like, the sort of the scarring. I quite like, because it's so hard now for movies to make that big of an impact on me. What were you going to say?
I remember once having a kid. He came around for a sleepover.
Okay.
And we watched South Park, the Halloween special, where they all get taken over by zombies. I think it's in the first season. And there's a scene where they pull off a guy's arm and it's just bleeding everywhere. And the kid cried and threw up. And I was really pissed off that he wouldn't watch the rest of South Park with me. I never invited him round to my house again.
Brutal. I bet he remembers you as an arsehole.
Yeah.
What was his name?
I don't want to say his name.
Give it his first name.
His name's Bishmar.
I'm sure there's lots of Bishmars listening.
He's a lovely boy.
Yeah.
I felt
Weak,
bad.
though.
Weak. I mean, I'm not exactly strong. I faint with the COVID vaccines.
Let's get Bishmar on the podcast to discuss a Serbian film. Anyway, we should do a film podcast now, shouldn't we, Luke?
Yeah.
We are reviewing this week Mickey17, the new movie by Bong Joon-ho, but we got a few other things to talk about. First, I've decided to be really professional for the rest of the podcast. Luke, why don't you give us a start with your films that you have watched this week?
Thanks, Sam. I watched 2 movies this week. I watched Paul Verhoeven's first ever English movie called Flesh and Blood. You seen that?
No. Verhoeven has made... I always get Verhoeven confused with... Who made Born Identity?
Not Paul Verhoeven. Paul Verhoeven made RoboCop.
Oh yeah,
and Starship Troopers and Showgirls.
Okay, wait. I mean, you simply must edit this out. But I need to figure out what is Paul Greengrass.
That's someone completely different.
He's called Paul for fuck's sake. Paul Greengrass directed several of the Bourne movies, not Bourne Identity.
Right.
Okay, but they're both sort of action-y directors. So Paul Verhoeven made RoboCop, and he's done Flesh and Blood.
Yes.
What year was Flesh and Blood?
1985.
1985, lovely.
And kind of interesting experience, I would say.
Yeah.
It's like a medieval... I guess it's kind of like a medieval swashbuckling movie. I don't know what else to call it. It's like a medieval sort of action...
Like on the seas, like pirates?
Is that what swashbuckling is?
Swashbuckling I've only ever seen used as a adjective to describe pirates being piratey.
Okay, well, it's about...
I could be wrong. I was wrong. I'm already quite embarrassed that I didn't know who Paul Verhoeven was.
Yeah. Paul Verhoeven's probably one of my favorite directors.
I do know who he is. I just got him confused.
I think he's so great.
Don't write in. I'm smart and I know everything about films.
Well, I know, but
hit my head earlier
it's
today.
got this sort of like, it's like roving bandits doing mischief in the medieval times.
Yeah.
But what's really sort of discordant is there's like, so the soundtrack is all like, we're adventurers in the olden times, blah, 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 blah. But it's also a really brutal, accurate, horrible depiction of the Middle Ages.
Right.
So there's loads of rape, loads of horrible violence. The plague is everywhere.
Yeah.
So everyone's living these really horrible, miserable lives. Everyone's completely paranoid and like a religious fanatic. There's like abortions going on, babies dying, really horrible violence. But then it's got the soundtrack which is like...
That's really funny.
Like almost really off-putting disconnect between the upbeat nature of the music and the actually awful things being depicted on screen.
So I really like... one thing I really like in movies is when something seems to be normal happening on screen and then they play really terrifying music.
Right, okay. This is the opposite.
Because then it's like you feel really tense about a seemingly normal situation. It fucks with your head and you're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Like Creature is a really good example. I think I talked about that on the podcast before. But I like the sound of this kind of, doing the inverse, kind of breaking your brain. It's making me think of like Happy Tree Friends, going back to unsuitable cartoons for children. Like this like happy music and happy imagery while someone's like being ripped apart.
Yeah.
So how would you just, is it kind of a dark comedy? Is it satirical? Is it just
No, I don't
brutal?
think it's satirical at all. It's just it's like a story about some bandits who kidnap a princess and then they're trying to keep hold of her.
And are they like the protagonists or are they like anti-heroes?
Well, this is what's actually pretty good, and I think Paul Verhoeven does this really well, is he does often leave stuff pretty open to interpretation. So the way they're projected at the beginning is that they're the heroes.
He lets you decide if the rapist kidnappers are the good guys or the bad guys. And you know what? Luke really likes it when people do that in films. He really hates it when he's like, oh, the rapists are the bad guys again. Boring.
No, but he does...
Let me sympathize with them.
Well, I think that's a more interesting movie, right? Not being like it's good. But it creates complex characters. And also then you're like, I have no idea where this movie's going. I don't know who the hero is.
Yeah.
Everyone in it is kind of
I think the hero
bad
is
person.
the princess that has been kidnapped.
No, she's not. She kills a lot of people.
Oh, well,
She
fair
also-
enough. I'd kill a lot of people if I was kidnapped.
There's also an
I
amazing
wouldn't.
scene.
I'd cry. Sorry, what's the amazing scene?
Well, I don't want to use the word amazing, but to give you a flavor
Well,
of
don't
like
then.
how morally complex this movie is. Or so there's a scene where you've been following the bandit the whole time, and he's sort of projected as the main character, and they've decided he is a saint. He's Saint Martin, and he's going to lead them to like wild success. And anyway, they kidnap this princess, and then they're like, let's all rape the princess. And there's this music kicks in, and they're like, oh, we're all going to rape the princess. And then the main guy starts raping the princess. You're like, wait, this is the hero. What is he doing? This is good. But then the princess turns around and is like, if you think I don't like this, you're wrong. And then starts like pushing back on him. And then all the men gathered around him are like, oh my God, she's raping him. She's raping him. And then he stops because he's like, oh fuck, she raped me. She turned the tables on me. And then he falls in love with her.
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna. This sounds like a bad film, Luke.
It's mental.
This sounds like well, yeah. I mean, it certainly sounds like
This is
it's
one
been directed
scene.
by a man.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's more complicated in the sense that I don't think it's that he's trying to make rape like acceptable. It's more that she's doing it in order, you can't work out whether she is doing
It's
it
female
to survive.
empowerment. You're gonna rape me? I'm gonna rape you back, buddy.
But this is where it's like interesting, because I think what he tried to do was
Actually, very feminist.
make the medieval times, he wanted to like reflect them more honestly, right? Because like lots of movies sort of romanticize that time, and he really doesn't shy away from being like, no, they're pillaging the castle. This is what they did back then.
Yeah.
And it's considered fine.
Right.
Like the king is allowing roving bandits to go and sack and pillage a city because it's his rival's city.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is how the politics worked back then, which is what like Game of Thrones is good at doing as well. Shows that time period in its horrible way. But what's interesting is the female character is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. You could look at it in lots of different ways. You could either look at it as in she's sort of portrayed as a cooped up wild princess who wants to be like a bandit and wants to be running around doing all these crazy sort of stuff, or it's like a survival mechanism to if she pleases the king bandit, then she's actually in the most secure position within the hierarchy of the bandits. So there's like this, and you can't really tell. The movie gives you like mixed messages on that, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. I think it just sounds like lots of not very nice people.
It is lots of not very nice
Would
people.
you recommend the film?
Yeah.
Right.
I like a movie though about like, it's like, I would say like no one is heroic in the movie, but it's all portrayed as if it's in heroic tropes.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that.
It's not like you to choose a highly problematic film from 40 years ago that you can that you can enjoy and claim to be enjoying for the right reasons, but not be entirely sure what those are.
That's
Not like Luke at all.
This is a horrible character assassination you were trying to put me through.
Did Paul Verhoeven make that film called like Elle or something? Yeah, he did. I think Paul Verhoeven is probably not a good dude. He made a movie called Elle, E-L-L-E, French for her, in 2016, which is a horrible, horrible film. And this is probably spoilers for this film, although I don't really remember it, so I might be wrong. But I think what the plot is a woman is like raped by an intruder, and then the intruder keeps coming back and continuing to rape her, and then she starts to like be into it and like getting ready for the intruder.
Oh my god.
And it's just another like sort of weird.
Do you feel like
I think
a male gaze rape fantasy?
Paul Verhoeven might quite like making films about rape.
Possibly.
Yeah. Anyway, we recommend Flesh and Blood.
I think Flesh and Blood's... well, look, it's not going to be forever. I mean, this film tanked. People hated it.
Yeah.
And then
was it critically
panned? At the time, it was critically panned, and then it's been reassessed as being a good movie.
Yeah.
But I did read an interview with Paul Verhoeven about it, and he claimed that he made this movie trying to appeal to American audiences.
Yeah.
And he genuinely didn't understand why they didn't like it.
Oh my god.
But I think you are right though. I think every one of his movies is like got like he likes very murky sexual politics and like he likes portraying humans at the most base, sort of like animalistic.
Yeah.
Which, if you're interested in exploring that, I think watch it. I think it's interesting. Whatever.
Thank you. I will. I'll keep watching. I don't know. I was just gonna. Yeah, I'll fine.
But it was funny. It did inspire, because what I didn't know is this movie inspired a hugely successful anime franchise called Berserk, which, if you're an anime person, you'll like it because you like anime. But I actually think it is probably one of the better anime series.
Right.
But I've only seen the first season, which I actually thought was, if you can get around like anime tropes and stuff, is actually pretty good. Because I thought it was, the first few episodes, like, oh, this is very boring anime, medieval anime, normal stuff. But then it goes into these really deep politics about friendship and ambition and what people do when they have a dream and what they're willing to sacrifice for it. And I was suddenly like, this is actually quite deep. And then I watched the second season, and that all went out the window, and it's just giant monsters attacking people. But
back to the classic stuff.
Yeah, but I was surprised. I was like, oh, this is an anime that like wants to say something. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But also has all those like random monsters and all that other bullshit going on. And probably has the most ballsy ending to a season I've ever seen.
Okay, so that's another is there? You were going to talk about another movie?
Yeah. And
What else did you see?
This movie has no rape in it, which is pretty good.
No.
I watched American Werewolf in London.
Nice. I've seen American Werewolf in London. It is great.
Yeah,
it's
it's
scary
fantastic.
and it's funny and it's fun.
Yeah.
An absolute classic. You've never seen it?
Never seen it.
What
I
made
heard-
you watch it?
It was on my list of things to watch, and it was
Cool.
at the top because it starts with an A.
Nice. I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I was blown away. I had heard people say the movie was good, but I was not expecting it to be this good. I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
I think it has the best dream sequence I've ever seen.
What happens in the dream sequence?
Okay, well, this is a spoiler for, I think, the best bit of the movie,
But it's a dream. How can you spoil a dream sequence?
because it's like a double. Well, look, if you don't want to hear it, move on by like 3 minutes. No, because he has all the first half of the movie is amazing, where they have like multiple dream sequences, but they have this one where it seems like he's gone back home to America.
Right.
And you think
the whole thing
he's
is
been in
yeah.
hospital, but the whole thing is a dream, and he's at his house with his family, and they just answer the door, and then a bunch of monsters in Nazi outfits just gun down his whole family, set
my
fire
God,
to the
yeah,
house,
that's ringing a bell.
and then cut his throat, and then he wakes up like, oh my God, what a horrible dream, and then his nurse is like, oh, were you having a dream? And then goes to the window, opens the curtain, and another Nazi monster jumps out and starts stabbing her to death, and then he realizes he's in another dream, and he wakes up again like, oh, Jesus Christ.
A series of
So
dream
good.
sequences within each other.
And
Yeah.
I was howling when the Nazi monsters came in and started shooting his family, because it's like out of nowhere, completely left turn. And then when you realize he's still in the dream and he's returned, it's so funny. Generally, like the best fake out I've ever seen in a movie. I loved it.
I think it's one of the only movies that I've seen that I think really actually works as both a horror and a comedy,
Yeah.
which is something that we talked about before. And my favorite example is The Host, which I'll mention later because it's a Bong Joon-ho movie.
But it's such a good, like, because this is sort of reminds me, it's like the way Evil Dead, I think, also works as a comedy horror, but it's like Bruce Campbell, the main character, really brings such a unique acting, kind of like, it's almost B-movie level acting. It's quite hammy, but it's so deadpan, but it's absolutely perfect. I think the main actor in this also brings that similar kind of, I don't know, sort of deadpan, but tongue-in-cheek, but taking the whole thing very seriously.
Yeah.
And then the female lead's also like just legitimately great and excellent actor.
My memory is that the tone shifts quite a lot, but it somehow works. Like the werewolf transformation scene is like genuinely scary and done with great practical effects.
It's horrible, yeah.
And yet there are kind of other totally silly bits, but you don't, I don't know, normally when you kind of chop and change between scary and funny and silly and whatever, it just feels all over the place, but they somehow got away with it.
And also the effects are like really really clever.
Yeah.
I don't like, because they really sort of avoid showing too much of the wolf, because it's clearly a puppet, but they managed to make it seem threatening.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so weird because it's like almost, I don't know, it ages much better than CGI, it seems, like animatronics and those sort of practical effects from the 80s seem to really, I don't know, they just feel worse. I don't know, because they look so much more real.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if they're not that realistic, they are, you can still make them kind of grotesque in a way that you can't, it's quite hard to make CGI, sort of bad CGI, look kind of gross, but in horror movies, it's quite easy to make an actual gross puppet be actually gross. And then even if you can tell that someone has made it, I think it can still have a sort of feel like a sort of cursed object somehow.
But they also weirdly still look even better in the old movies than when they use animatronics now, because I think the cameras were so much worse.
Right.
And
yeah,
like, 'cause
they
it has
couldn't
this,
capture
like Evil Dead is so visceral because it's like got, again, because everything's kind of shit. So it adds this whole layer across the whole movie that's like a bit like grainy and gritty and
nice. I'm glad you enjoyed American Werewolf in London more than Flesh and Blood.
Yeah. Flesh and Blood, I would say, is definitely not for everyone.
Yeah.
Neither is American Werewolf, but I think more people like American Werewolf. American Werewolf is genuinely really funny.
Yeah. Oh, I think everyone should watch American Werewolf in London. It feels like you could almost watch it like with the family at Christmas, not with kids, but but like
just
it's like a classic.
It's just like Watership Down, isn't it?
But it's like, it's, I know there's sort of sex and violence and things like that in it, but
sex isn't gratuitous.
It's not like totally
tasteful.
graphic.
Yeah.
I think even if you didn't like horror movies, would you agree that even if you don't like horror movies, like American Werewolf in London is sort of a classic, almost exciting adventure that people could
it's
watch?
it's tonally different, isn't it?
It's not
a bit
like,
offset.
watching The Exorcist or something like that.
or Hereditary or something.
Yeah.
It's not fill you with dread. It's a bit gross out, but it's almost tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I think most people would enjoy it. It is also so funny that I don't know if you remember this in the film, but his nurse just takes him home and from the hospital to like have sex with him, and it's so clearly a red flag.
Yeah.
Because
But back then it was fine.
He's either an actual werewolf or he's a maniac who thinks he's a werewolf, and she's just like, "Oh, you seem so nervous, but you are so pretty."
Well, 20 years ago, having a duty of care included sleeping with people if you fancied them.
Yeah.
It would have been considered careless to not do that.
Goddamn red tape now. Trying to get in the way of office romances.
You have a few people take advantage of their position at the hospice.
You got just one or two Paul Verhovens in there.
One or two Paul Verhovens. God, I would not want to be trapped in a room with Paul Verhoeven.
But do you think it's one of those ones where it's like in real life, because Paul Verhoeven's work is all like so provocative and gross, actually as a human being, he's the kindest?
No, I'm not saying he is a rapist, but I'm saying anyone who is like that interested in rape, like in the same way that I don't think Quentin Tarantino is going to like murder me, but I think he is very obsessed with violence and is a weird guy.
But do you not think like people who make like children's shows are potentially like the most sadistic evil people?
No.
Because they're like trying to hide. And they need an outlet for it.
I don't know. I think the ones that are doing it to have sex with the children are, but I think that's probably a minority of them.
Okay.
Bong.
Speaking of bongs.
Speaking of bongs, nice. I liked that. I watched one other movie this week other than Mickey17, and it was inspired by Mickey17 because I'm a huge fan of Bong Joon-ho, who's the director of Mickey17, and I decided to watch his first ever feature film because I've seen most of his movies. Parasite, Mother, and The Host are my three favourites, and they're three of my favourite films like ever. I think he's one of my favourite directors. And or they probably be in my top 50 movies.
Yeah.
They're not in my top 10, but I think
they're pretty good.
They're all really great. I don't love all of his movies. I'm not a fan of Snowpiercer particularly. I actually was unimpressed by Memories of Murder, which is kind of the fan favourite, but it didn't work for me. I decided to check out his first movie. It's called Barking Dogs Never Bite. And it's from 2000, and it's a dark comedy set in a huge apartment complex that he lived in himself, Bong Joon-ho. And it is about a guy. It begins with a guy who's a sort of assistant professor at a university, doesn't have much money, and there's a yapping dog somewhere in his apartment complex, which is loudly barking all the time. And he gets very annoyed by this dog, so he finds it, kidnaps it, and locks it in a cupboard in the basement.
Oh my God, I love that.
And that is the start of the movie.
Yes.
And it goes off from there. The movie begins with a disclaimer saying no animals were harmed during this, and a kind of animal-like trainer and person was like present at all times. It very much has to say that because there are a lot of films, there's a lot of moments in this film where it looks like animals are getting harmed. And it looks like they're getting harmed in a way that would be quite difficult to film, especially for like a low budget sort of indie movie as this was.
What are you talking about? What are we talking here?
It's all dogs and just things being done to the dogs that are if you're not a fan of bad things happening to animals in films, I wouldn't recommend this movie. So it's not like a horror thriller film where there's an evil dog murderer. It's a sort of human drama and dark comedy. But yeah, there are some horrible things that happen to dogs, or almost happen to some dogs. So yeah, if you're someone who is sad just at the idea of a dog dying, then when you see a sort of actual dog corpse that you're looking at going, I don't see how this isn't just a dog corpse. This looks like either this is like the best dog actor I've ever seen, or the best fake dog I've ever seen, or it's a dead dog.
It is a dead dog. It's good at acting because it's not.
But yeah, Bong Joon-ho's made like a bunch of like Okja that he made is about like don't be mean to animals, and Mickey17 is kind of about that, which we'll get onto later.
Yeah.
And so, well, I assume it wasn't. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I liked Barking Dogs Never Bite. I would not particularly recommend it to anyone who's not a Bong Joon-ho fan.
Okay.
It's an odd little movie. It kind of meanders along. It's quite funny. It's very dark. It's sort of a bit of a social satire. The film it's most closely linked to is Parasite. There's quite a few like parallels. Stuff about people trying to climb social hierarchies in sort of unethical ways. There's a creepy guy living in the basement. Oh. There's a lot of sort of it very much feels like a kind of proto-Parasite with a kind of dog plot that is that is not in Parasite. I had a good time with this movie. I would say it kind of peters out towards the end and didn't feel like it had that much to say by the end of it. But so an odd little movie that I wouldn't generally tell people that they must go out and see it. But I would say you should go out and see Bong Joon-ho's best movies, and if you like them and you want to kind of see where it all came from and see him start out and see him do one of his only movies that's not like a kind of big genre sci-fi action horror whatever, it's just a kind of human story, then it's quite cool, and there's some really nice moments, but it does feel like a kind of debut film of someone figuring things out, rather than a kind of fantastic movie in its own right.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
But I had fun with it. And then I went and watched Mickey17. His new movie has just come out, starring Robert Pattinson, Naomi Ackie, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette,
McDormand.
Tim Key as a pigeon.
Yes.
Frances McDormand?
Yeah.
No. Toni Collette.
Fuck.
But she does look a bit like Frances McDormand.
Fuck. That's humiliating.
Especially because I'd already said Toni Collette.
That's the one.
And you were just so excited to be like, I knew one of their names.
No, I did. I thought I did.
Yeah, this is his most recent movie, based on a book, and we'll reveal the premise of Mickey17, which I don't think is a spoiler. It's revealed in the first 3 minutes of the movie, basically. Robert Pattinson is on a spaceship, and he has a job as what's called an expendable. And what that means is he goes out and is sent on dangerous missions on behalf of this space colony, which is run by Mark Ruffalo and his wife Toni Collette. And he often dies on these space missions, but that doesn't matter because they have a human printing machine which can reprint Robert Pattinson's body, so he can go out and keep dying and being reborn and dying and being reborn. And that's why the film's called Mickey17, because he's the 17th incarnation of Mickey. And throughout the movie, we see what happens to that one incarnation of him along his life. It's kind of a action, thriller, comedy, satire. It's very much trying to do a lot, be a lot. Does it achieve that? Do you think it is as good as Bong Joon-ho's best work, Luke? What did you think of Mickey17?
I mean, I agree with that synopsis. I thought it was very good. I felt like it was too much going on for me. I loved the first half. I was like super excited, and then I felt like I sort of lost interest towards the end because it got into too many things and then started focusing on things that I felt were less interesting to me.
So what was it focusing on that you liked, and what did it focus on that you did not like?
So I mean, I loved the whole dynamic of him being a reprinted person, the morals of like cloning, the ethics of cloning, the idea of what constitutes a meaningful life, the way people treat him, knowing that he's expendable versus someone who's not. Mm-hmm. And sort of how that sort of creates a kind of class system almost, and like he's treated like dirt. In a way that
he's very much a sort of underclass.
Yeah.
And
I also liked feeding into that, which is all set up in the beginning again, like how he volunteered to become an expendable was all sort of related to class issues and desperation and this sort of thing.
Similar themes to the sort of Parasite and a lot of his other movies. Yeah, he seems very interested in, Bong Joon-ho seems very interested in kind of capitalism and social strata and what people will do to have a good life.
Yeah, get status. And I thought that also fit really well with Mark Ruffalo's character, who is sort of a raging, narcissistic, I guess, Trump figure. I don't want to...
he is Trump. I think it's pretty
100%.
clear that he is inspired by Trump.
Which I was very excited about because I was like, okay, this is all sort of coming together with this sort of class element. And then I felt the second half, or maybe the final third of the movie, was much more sort of focused on a plot about things on the planet they end up on, which I felt was just fundamentally less interesting. And also felt like not set up in a way that I cared about what was going on with that storyline. And it lost all the sort of satire and the sort of... It lost a point maybe it could have made about, human interactions and stuff, and sort of just became an action, or like an action-adventure sort of drama to me.
Yeah.
And then it ended, and I was a little bit disappointed because I thought performances were all brilliant. I loved the vibe of it, like the actual feel of everything felt really great. It was funny, it was weird, it was wacky, but then it just sort of felt like a bit of a mess to me at the end.
Mess is exactly the word I had in mind to describe this film. I thought this film was a mess. It's my least favorite Bong Joon-ho movie.
Oh wow!
I think
you love Bong Joon-ho. Fucking hell!
Who do I love? Bong Joon-ho.
I've been so in my head since I said Francis McDormand.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Also, 3 of the eeasiest syllables to pronounce in the world. Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, but that makes it hard. Bong Joon-ho.
Oh my god. I thought this movie was a mess. There are some really good elements to it. I'll go through those first, right? I think the performances are really great. Mark Ruffalo is the best thing about the film. I think he's sort of... if you liked him in Poor Things, I think you'll like him in this. He's playing a really ridiculous, silly, over-the-top, as Luke said, kind of Trumpian sort of populist dictator leader of this space crew.
He plays a charismatic narcissist.
Yes,
so good. I feel like that's his best roles ever.
He's very funny, and ultimately this movie is a comedy, I think, above everything else. Like it's got a very silly tone to it. It's very over the top, and there's a lot of kind of jokes or things that are played for laughs in the movie. I did like that and found the movie amusing. I don't think I laughed out loud during the movie. It was not the comedy didn't hit that hard for me. I really liked Mark Ruffalo's character, but I wasn't laughing out loud that much. Robert Pattinson does a good performance as well. He does an insane accent of like this squeaky nerd American accent. He's British, and it's a bizarre voice, but kind of works. I think the one thing that's weird about it though is he's supposed to be playing this absolute loser, and he's like the hottest guy in the world. And I'm just sick of that in movies. So
yeah, give us a proper Uggo, please.
Yeah, and I think just giving him a squeaky voice is not enough to stop him from being the hottest guy in the world. And when he's set up as like this kind of loser who can't get his life together, it's like you just no one's ever met like a guy with a perfect jaw and perfect skin and all these things.
Well, he's also got a hot bod.
And and he's ripped, and
he's ripped.
It just annoys me, and I know, like, you got to have a big name and whatever, but Hollywood suck and people are thick, aren't they? I thought it looked cool. There's aliens in the movie which have a fun design,
like
to
their
them.
hand
I
faces.
think.
Their faces are hands.
Yeah. The premise is a somewhat interesting sci-fi premise. It's very bleak. I quite like the bleakness and it leaning into the bleakness. But yeah, those are the nice things I have to say about it. I thought the movie was a total mess. It tries to do so many things, and I don't think it really fully succeeds in any of them. It starts with this somewhat interesting sci-fi premise of like cloning and reprinting and stuff. It starts to explore some of the ramifications of that, but not to that interesting a degree. And by the end of the movie, it's barely even relevant to the plot. As you were saying, the final act turns into this kind of action adventure thing, and the body printing thing is like not even really a part of the movie anymore.
Well, it's also annoying because the very final bit of the movie, they go back to it.
Yeah, they bring it back a little bit.
Yeah, but it has no impact.
Yeah.
Precisely because we've been distracted for 50 minutes with a completely different story.
Yeah. It just and then it's just not that interesting. And I'm massively spoiled by Severance at the moment, which is so good. It's such a fascinating, unique sci-fi premise, and they explore every angle and every different thing that could come out of it, like so precisely, and they second guess everything you're thinking about. And this feels like such a sort of like down the middle sci-fi premise that's explored not very much. And I know you can do more in a TV show than a movie, but I don't know, other movies, Ex Machina and other sci-fi movies that have a kind of singular premise that they're exploring just go so much deeper with it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Severance as well, because I felt like Severance is like, obviously there's similar themes of sort of cloning, or more or less. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't want to get into
I mean, there's not cloning in Severance, but similar themes of like
split identity,
yeah,
whatever. And yeah, exactly as you said, it explores that concept in so much detail and so much like that it is fascinating, and the characters behave in like a believable way, and it is exciting. Whereas this just feels like, what's your opinion on all of this? Like, and it's sort of it sort of sets it up and then doesn't do anything with it, which is almost more frustrating to be like, you've got a great idea in your hand, like why are you not?
And I agree,
using it,
and because it's all done with this sort of in this comedy tone, it just doesn't really take it seriously, and it's just the rules around it are kind of explained, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel believable. It didn't really make sense to me.
Also, I have one thing that there was so much exposition as well,
right?
Like there's just Robert Pattinson talking for over
the first 20 minutes is just Robert Pattinson doing a really long voiceover.
Yeah, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
And then it ends like that as well. And I'm just like, why?
Right, yeah.
Especially as the movie's long and like sort of it feels like two movies shoved together. It's like, why didn't you just show us all of that?
Yeah.
Considering you've got all this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really, I found it, I don't always hate exposition done like that. I think that can sometimes be fun, but with this, I really was like, come on, when are we beginning?
Yeah.
And
it took a long time to get going.
Kept going.
And yeah, I agree with that. And then I wasn't particularly enjoying it. And then the final part of the movie, like, it just turns into this sort of, kind of alien action thrillery thing. And it's just, I'm just like, why? I don't care about any of this. I just didn't care at all. I thought it was boring. I think loads of times in the movie, and I can talk about it a bit more spoilers, like I didn't really believe the decisions the characters were making.
Yeah.
Like they were doing certain things or changing their mind about certain things. And again, it was just kind of played for laughs or like, oh lol, they've changed their mind about this. And like, it was like using the kind of comedy tone to get away with the fact that it was basically a weak narrative.
Yeah.
And that a lot of the plot didn't really add up or didn't really, I don't know. I just, Severance is funny, but it's never funny in a way, it never like laughs away an explanation about what's going on. Like it's very serious about the plot, and if you're making a plot driven movie, if you're making just a comedy, if you're making Dumber and Dumber, you don't have to take the plot seriously. But if you're making a movie where in it to any degree they want you to take the plot seriously, which this movie does, wants you to be invested in the plot, like you have to take it seriously. And there's stuff set up about like the sort of society's history with this like cloning body printing technology and how they got to where they're at with it and the morals of it, that was just like just dumb, just felt like it was played for laughs for me, and I would just maybe not care about the characters or what happened. And then it seems to be making a point about sort of animal rights at the end of the film more than it does about cloning and or the main sci-fi premise. He just tried to do a million things, and it just didn't work at all for me, and I was really frustrated by the end.
Yeah. No, I similar feel. I also found, which I know we spoke about also, with Mark Ruffalo's character being Trump, which again I do think was the best. It was like a fun bit of the movie. It's also, again, it feels like, oh, now it's stuck in a certain time period of like lampooning a really specific person, and you sort of like, are you trying to make a comment about modern society through this? But the satire doesn't quite add up, because you're like, again, like, you're not really. It's not like this is a character study of a narcissistic, like. Well,
no, he's a cartoon figure, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was like, it could have been mocking other populist figures. Like it didn't. It wasn't like so.
But it's so strongly Trump that it removes the element of it being, oh, this is a timeless exploration of like, populism.
He's got some of his own quirks
dictators.
to it.
Yeah, but
I don't know that the Trumpiness would. I don't know if. I think I still would have enjoyed it if Trump wasn't.
I don't know. I found it kind of distracting, just because it's like, I don't know if it's just because of what's going on in the news at the moment, but it felt a little bit like, I don't know if looking back it will feel more sort of better, that aspect of it, but it sort of feels a bit like, why are you forcing it into such a small time frame rather than making a, because generally I'm like, satire is better when it's more like universal and sort of it says a timeless thing about humanity rather than let's point fun at this one specific individual who is hot right now.
I mean, I would say that I think the Trump connection is down to Mark Ruffalo's performance more than it is down to like the writing of the character. Like, I don't think
but that's also the director's control to some degree as well. And I don't know, not to like lay blame on it, but I'm talking about like the final product and how it makes you feel. Which, I sort of felt was a bit like distracting almost. I don't know.
That's fair. I think I would have, if I had never heard of Trump or didn't know who Trump was, would have felt similarly about the film, but I think it's a bad film, so I don't care whether it ages well or badly, because it's just I think it's always gonna be a bad film.
Yeah. Should we get into spoilers?
Yeah. So very disappointed in Mickey17. It's not. You know what? If you love Bong Joon-ho, there is maybe a like. I know some people like it, and you might get stuff out of it. It's got some good ideas, it's got some good performances. You might enjoy it, but if you haven't seen Bong Joon-ho's other stuff, obviously watch Parasite, watch The Host, watch Mother. They're phenomenal films, and I would expect you'll have a much better time. The last thing I'll say before spoilers is I wasn't mad on Snowpiercer, which is one of his other English language movies, and his other English language movie is Okja, which I haven't seen, but I know sort of got quite a mediocre critical reaction. Part of me, this movie's English language, of course, as well. Part of me wonders if, like, maybe Bong Joon-ho doesn't speak English or very good English. If you watch him in interviews, he has a translator. And part of me wonders if some of this is like just getting lost in translation.
Yeah.
I think he shouldn't make English language movies. I think his English language movies, this and Snowpiercer at least, just feel kind of weird. And they've got this sort of weird tone and this weird energy to them that sometimes fun and sometimes funny, but have found like off-putting, whereas his other movies, even like The Host, which has a big fucking sea monster in it, feels very like down to earth and authentic. And I don't know if it's a deliberate thing or if something's getting lost in translation, but it does make me wonder
perhaps too much of a cultural leap,
if him trying to portray like this idea of the American society or whatever, it just doesn't work very well. Stick to Korea, Bong.
Maybe that's what's happened to Paul
I think.
Verhoeven as well.
Yeah, stick to the Netherlands.
Stick to the Netherlands. Be
sure
sexy, do your weird rape stuff over there.
Your rape movies over there, Paul. Amsterdam.
I
used to be able to do a Dutch accent. Anyway, that's Mickey17. Let's do spoilers.
Yes. Oh, I'll tell you a scene I did like. There was a scene I did like. I did like when he was invited to dinner with Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette's character, and then when he's like dying from the fake meat,
and they
just use it as an opportunity to test all these different things. I thought that was really funny.
I agree, that was really funny.
And that had that tone of like, oh, this is like, they're not treating him like a person, and it's like, he's clearly, again, also brings up all those issues we were talking about cloning in a way that's like, okay, this is where there is room for comedy, but it's making a point at the same time of like, they're just missing that he's a human being.
That's true. I did actually find it, found all the abuse he suffered quite horrible and quite uncomfortable.
Really?
Like it's played for laughs, and it's not like you're not watching. It's all again very cartoony and silly and over the top. But I was like, God, this is really horrible. This poor guy is going through all this stuff. But yeah, that scene was funny. I enjoyed that scene. But yeah, there's so many things in the film that I just kept being like, he wouldn't do that, and why would they make that decision? I don't know. One example is like they reprint him because they think he's dead, but he's not dead, so he now has a clone. And
which is fully illegal.
And I think the reason behind that is so stupid. The reason behind the clones being illegal is because there was once a guy who cloned himself and he was a murderer, so now all clones are banned. And it's like, I don't know, it's like dumb to me. And like you're allowed to print someone's body, but if they ever exist, two people at the same time, you have to kill them all forever. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense at all. It was just.
But that's based on a
stupid.
real. That's based on a real case. Not about cloning, but there were twins. They're identical twins who did manage to get off because they couldn't work out which one had actually been responsible for the murder.
But what didn't happen is we didn't as a society agree to kill all identical twins.
Well.
And make being an identical twin illegal, right? I thought that was so stupid. And then there's this whole thing in the movie where him and his clone have to hide. Also, why do his clones all have different... Mickey17, who's this clone, has a totally different personality to him.
Yeah.
Again, why would he have a different personality?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to... There's not been any evidence of the previous ones having different personalities, really. There's not been like...
Oh, no, they say in the movie that they did.
Oh, maybe they mention it.
Yeah.
But there's been no... It's not been part
but that's
of
how
the
they
story.
explain all the world, is by mentioning
And
it.
now, yeah, exactly. And now Mickey18 is like the polar opposite of Mickey17.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are these... identical clones who look identical completely different?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
I was trying to be like generous about that plot point, because I was trying to think, well, maybe it's the reaction to the death. So it's
he's been killed loads of times.
Yeah, I know, but each death is like a new experience. So then you have like this clone who has a unique experience of like coming back from a certain type of death. But even if that's the case, I'm like, yeah, it wouldn't change your personality that drastically, that quickly.
He's like a villain.
Yeah.
And then there's the thing where him and his clone are like fucking or not fucking these two women, and one of the women like notices their clones, and she's like, this is illegal, I'm going to report you. And then like 5 seconds later, she's like, actually, can I have the one that I like, and you can have the other one? And it's like this whole series of It just felt like it was Bong Joon-ho going, oh, this is a wacky comedy, I'm going to make people say and do wacky things, and it just meant I just didn't believe any of it. It just felt silly.
Well, also that like share, it's also frustrating because you can kind of see ideas that could have been developed in a way that was quite interesting. So I thought the idea of them splitting, one taking one clone and one taking the other, could have actually been a really interesting point about them dehumanizing him. Yeah, where it's like even his relationships are being treated in this way, that he is being used by people because he's printed rather than born. Which I was like, okay, that would actually have been a fascinating point to get into and him get upset about and discuss. But I agree with you, it's just sort of played for laughs, and then and it's not even that funny.
No, it's not even that funny.
And it feels like a bit of a character departure from his main girlfriend, who's like a soldier or something, and then she's like smoking that pure super drug and wants to have a threesome all the time. And you're like, this sort of feels discordant with how you've shown yourself to be. The rest of and like she's really sensitive and sort of emotional. She's like one of the few people who cares about Mickey in a quite humane way, and then is immediately like, okay, well maybe we divide our time between the two of them. You're like, I don't know if that's everything this character has been up until this point would not be up board for that.
Big shifts in characters. And there's this whole subplot about the super drug that they've got, this oxy, whatever they call it. And I don't know, it just like feels just jammed in there and not very interesting and not a very relevant part of the plot. I found Naomi, I found her character a bit annoying, going back and forth. Also, why has she got an English accent and Robert Pattinson has to do an American accent?
Isn't she British?
Yeah, but Robert Pattinson's British.
Oh, right.
And he's doing an American accent and she's not. Why is that? That's a decision that annoyed me for some reason. Bong Joon-ho can't even fucking tell the difference. He can't even speak English. He doesn't even know what's going on. He's like, what's happening? I'm like, don't worry, Bong. We'll figure this out. And then the whole third act of the movie is like, oh, there's aliens on this planet and we're going to kill the aliens. Oh, but the aliens are actually nice. Which is a really boring, overdone sci-fi premise. And it's like him and his clone have to save the day. Which I guess is like, showing that clones aren't bad, but that's obvious from the beginning because any idiot could tell you that someone being a clone doesn't make them evil. And then him being a clone has like no relevance really to this big like action set piece that's just really boring. I just didn't care. I was like, why are we watching an alien invasion sort of movie now? This isn't the movie that you told us this would be. This isn't what I signed up for.
So the whole thing, these aliens are like people, actually.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's things that like, oh yeah, we've got a translator. We just invented a translator all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So you can talk to the big slug monsters. What?
Yeah.
And again, it's just like, oh, it's a zany comedy, so we can just have a translator. But it's not a zany, like, it's so, I don't know, something like Brazil, right? Terry Gilliam's Brazil will be sort of incredibly zany and wacky the whole way through with like mad shit and inventions and all this thing.
Even that's like, where it's making points about bureaucracy and totalitarianism in a way that is really coherent, the stories, and is kind of, the whole point of it being mental and crazy is to kind of reflect the insanity of dystopian totalitarianism.
Yeah.
And also the character is going mad himself. So there's like a horror meets comedy to it that is telling a meaningful story.
Yeah.
Which I do agree. Brazil is close to being a mess, but I really do not believe it is. It actually manages to walk that line really well.
But I just mean Brazil is like consistent in its wackiness. Whereas I think this movie is like, oh, here's like a serious bit and here's a not serious bit, and it just tries to like have its cake and eat it too, and it just it feels tonally all over the place.
And there's that really annoying the thing that really annoyed me was Toni Collette's like character's obsession with tails. For making sauces.
For making sauce. Yeah, that I found really annoying.
Again, I was like, all right, I kind of see what you're going for, which is like corporate. You know, you're looking at like you're trying to do a take of these characters who only see everything as products, and you know, she wants to blend up all the aliens and the aliens that are clearly sort of sentient and like worthy of humane respect or whatever. But again, out of nowhere, she's suddenly obsessed with sauces, and there's no evidence that these things make good sauce or like.
She's just upset. Yeah, again, it's just played for like a joke, and then it suddenly becomes part of the plot. Is Toni Collette's obsession with sauce, and it does just feel like Bong Joon-ho's gone. Haha, wouldn't it be funny if, or maybe it's the writer of the book that it's based on. Wouldn't it be funny if this person's obsessed with sauces and I don't know. And yes, there's sort of like, you can apply a kind of satirical lens to all of this and be like, oh, it's making fun of corporations, or it's making fun of rich people, or it's making fun of your like the way we treat soldiers and blah blah blah. But like any points it's making seemed totally surface level and uninteresting to me. Like something being somewhat representative of the real world doesn't make it a good satire. A good satire should be like using its world to make like smart and interesting points about our own world. But it's just like, I don't know, it's just a bit more of poor people are treated badly and big bad leaders are mean and what and it wasn't like, oh yes, the plot doesn't work, but really it's a hilarious takedown of whatever. Yeah, we know Trump's a dick. Yeah. What have you got anything interesting to say about it? Yes. And this is another movie that I when I was like writing my notes before the podcast to talk about it, found myself getting more annoyed and having less and less kind of nice things to say about it, which is such a shame because Bong Joon-ho, I just really hope he doesn't keep making English language movies because he's really successful. Make your weird little Korean films. They're brilliant.
Do you think but all his Korean films in Korea are like beloved, right? Like they're pretty well received.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if his English movies went down really well in Korea, and his Korean movies went down really well in England, but never across there.
I don't know. Mickey17 seems to have had quite a polarizing response, but I don't think anyone is saying like it's one of his best.
No. Well, no, it's not very good.
It's a good summary. And your housemate you saw it with also thought it wasn't very good.
Yeah, he didn't like it either.
And that is a shame.
Well, maybe they'll clone it, make a remake, and it will be better. What's the book?
I was going to do some research. I did not. Yeah. Watch Severance instead of this. Watch Bong Joon-ho's other movies instead of this. Watch Moon instead of this with Sam Rockwell.
I'd say watch Flesh and Blood instead of this.
Yeah, or any of Luke's rape movies if you prefer.
Can we not start?
Can you stop watching rape films every week? Yeah, not a good movie. I think my least favorite main review movie, probably outside of Wolfman.
Yeah, but Wolfman was always going to be bad, wasn't it?
But this was at least shorter than Wolfman. This is like almost 2.5 hours.
Wolfman was longer than that?
No, sorry, this is longer than Wolfman. I mean, right. Wolfman was at least shorter than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough when you have high expectations of someone, isn't it?
Yes.
He's your favorite.
Bong. Do better, Bong.
Come on, Bong.
All right, that's all for today. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.